Next, we have the lovely Dr. Nicholas Cole, a fond mentor of mine, whom I appreciate dearly. He is a senior research fellow at the Pembroke College of Oxford University. He studies political thought in the 18th and 19th centuries. He's the director of the Quill Project, a collaborative effort between Pembroke College and Utah Valley University. Quill is the digital platform that visualizes how constitutions and treaties have been recognized over the last 200 years. Dr. Cole.
Brilliant. Let's see. Okay, why are we here? So we're at a very interesting moment in American history. The Supreme Court of the United States has basically instructed everyone to become better historians. Those of you who've been following the judgments this summer may have noticed that actually what the Supreme Court has said is that they want to pay much closer attention to the phrase they like to use is deeply rooted parts of American history. But what they really mean by that is that they want to pay much closer attention to how the language of state and federal documents was written and what the people who wrote those documents might have meant. And as it happens, we've just published this summer the work of 2 years of work by students at UVU and a team in Oxford looking at the period between 1860 and 1875, when the 14th Amendment, well, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, and related pieces of legislation were being passed by Congress. And we didn't start that project knowing that the Supreme Court would start telling everybody to pay attention to this kind of material. But it's really fascinating to have published this just weeks after they told everybody they had to start thinking about it more. This language in the 14th Amendment is critical for you as Americans today. There is not a right that you enjoy that doesn't in some way interact with this language in the 14th Amendment. All of the Federal Bill of Rights protections, insofar as they apply to the states because of the language in the 14th Amendment. So this is really a critical piece of language, not only for the history of the end of slavery, but for the contemporary history of America. Well, I'm interested in how words get written. And for the last few years, with the help of people on both sides of the Atlantic, have been trying to sort out how we might study in more detail the processes by which language is agreed upon. And I think it is one of the most unique things about America that you have written your constitutional texts collaboratively. You have not generally asked one very clever person to write a constitution for you in the way that the ancient Athenians might have done with Solon and others, but you have had hundreds of people involved, thousands of people even, in writing your state and federal constitutional texts. And we've put together a computer platform for studying that. And there's been a lot of work both on the history and on the sort of tech side to try and get this to work. And this is what running this project feels like sometimes. But none of the work that we've done would have been possible without the most amazing collaboration between the place that I work, Pembroke College in Oxford, which is 400 years old next year, and Utah Valley University, one of the world's newest universities. And this collaboration is one of the great privileges of my career. And the students here have worked incredibly hard on a number of projects for the better part of 7 or 8 years now. And we look forward to a collaboration going into the future. And I'll say more about that at lunchtime and what the next steps are. But our job really is to turn the detailed records of debate into something intelligible and that can be studied by experts and by the wider public in much more detail than has ever been possible before, by showing really the work that went into crafting the specific language, by allowing you to see on the screen how the process of debate works. And if you're interested in the sort of more formal academic write-up of it, along with my colleague Grace Mallon, who will be talking a bit later this morning, we have an article that you can read that talks about the thinking behind it. But we try and map out the sort of processes where documents are sent through lots of different committees. I put this slide on the screen, don't worry about the detail, but it shows the committee structure of the original 1787 convention. That's where we started this work. What we've discovered is that at state level, things look impossibly complicated. I've got colleagues at London University helping us try and sort out how we try and visualize data that is an order of magnitude more complicated when you come to state level work than the federal level work. And here's the same shot of just the 14th Amendment debates, all of the committee work that went into trying to sort out the language of the 14th Amendment. So this is an incredibly complicated process that we're trying to capture for you online. Just in terms of the 14th Amendment and the Civil Rights Act that went with it, there are over 3,000 individual decisions taken during the framing of that language. And those of you who know the 14th Amendment will know how short it is. But that's the level of complexity and detail that we're dealing with. And we try and lay this out for you so that you can see how the language evolves, so that you can see which proposals succeeded and which failed, and the contexts within which they succeeded and failed. And this is work that is intended both for experts and for the rest of the American public as well. It's a project that has involved everything, going into archives to find committee papers that have never before been published, digitizing those, transcribing those, putting them online, working out how to develop the platform for analysis that we've built, and finally trying to work out how to make that material available for educators. So that's a very complicated and difficult set of tasks. And the students at UVU and the staff at the center have been critical in helping us think through that. I'm not going to take a lot of credit for the hard work that has been done here. That's going to be explained to you by two of the students who worked on this project in just a second, and it's my honor and duty to introduce them. But here are some of the themes that this particular project on the Reconstruction amendments presented for us. First of all, the choice of material was difficult. We clearly couldn't put online the complete sort of mapping of 15 years of debates in Congress. So we had to make some choices, and we had to think rigorously about those choices. We had to think about how we develop user interfaces designed for much simpler processes for this much more complicated process. I think it's an important thing to say that this project is about how texts come into existence. Now, the lawyers will have different theories about what that means for interpretation, and I leave that up to them. But I think studying that process of debate in its own right and civility in its own right, if you want to think of it like that, is an important aspect of this project. And there is further work needed on how we develop these tools further. Before I hand over, I just want to say one other thing. Anything that is good in the work that has been done, all of the archival work that has been done, all of the transcription, selection of material, detailed work, everything that is good that you will see as you explore these projects, that is the product of hard work by the students here at UVU. Anything that is not to your liking in terms of method, in terms of difficult user interfaces, in terms of deficiencies, that's all my fault. And with that, I'd like to introduce Erica and Kiana to talk you through the work that they did.